Moving on, and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told his Syrian counterpart Ahmed Al-Sharaa that Ankara will continue its diplomatic efforts to lift international sanctions on Syria. This came during a meeting between Erdogan and Al-Sharaa on the sidelines of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. The three-day Antalya Diplomacy Forum, which kicked off in the Turkish city of Antalya, is centred on the theme reclaiming diplomacy in a fragmented world. A Syrian Foreign Ministry statement said the talks emphasised Turkey's support for the Syrian people for reconstruction and lifting the economic sanctions on Syria. The talks also addressed strengthening joint cooperation between the two countries in different sectors. It was Shara's second trip to Turkey as leader after Erdogan welcomed him to Ankara in February. Turkey has suspended all trade with Israel as Erdogan has expressed his concerns with the Israel-Gaza conflict. We will not allow Syria to be dragged into a new vortex of instability, Erdogan said. Forum. Let's listen in to the president's comments.
Meseleleri diyalog yoluyla çözme tavrımızı kimse yanlış anlamamalı, yanlış yorumlamamalı. Sükunetimiz birilerini çok hatalı heveslere sürüklememelidir.
Moving on now, and the Dominican Republic, a 53-hour search has now ended following the tragic roof collapse at the legendary Jet Set nightclub in Santo Domingo. The disaster, which struck early on Tuesday, has claimed the lives of 222 people and left more than 200 others injured. Nearly 24 are still in the hospital, with several in a critical condition. The devastating tragedy is being called the worst in the country's recent history and has raised serious concerns about the safety of infrastructure in the capital and wider regions. While authorities are still investigating the cause of the collapse, the government has formed a technical team to look into the incident and provide answers to the grieving families. We head to the Indo-Pacific now, and Seoul Mayor Oh Si-hoon has confirmed he will not be running in the June 3rd presidential election, apologising for the failure of former President Yoon Suk-yeol's government. His announcement, made at the People Power Party's headquarters in Western Seoul, came as a surprise, as many had expected him to enter the race following Yoon's removal from office after his failed martial law attempt. Other Conservative politicians, including former Labour Minister Kim Moon-soo and ex-PPP leader Han Dong-hoon, have already declared their candidacies. Meanwhile, former President Yoon Suk-yeol left the presidential residence in Seoul after being stripped of his duties. He was seen embracing supporters and shaking hands with people holding Yoon Again placards before departing in a police-led convoy. Former president has moved back with his wife and their 11 dogs and cats to their apartment in an upscale district of Seoul, close to the prosecutor's office where the impeached leader worked before entering politics. Despite his departure from office, Yoon faces a criminal trial on charges of insurrection related to his martial law declaration. South Korea is gearing up for its upcoming presidential election, with opposition candidate Lee Jae-myung currently in the lead in polls, according to local media. Lee has unveiled his policy agenda, focused on steering the nation through the aftermath of recent political unrest. Gabon's coup leader Brice Oligui his 7-year mandate in the country's presidential election this Saturday, 19 months after overthrowing President Ali Bongo, whose family ruled for decades. Nguema is pitching himself as a change agent committed to fighting corruption. While he promises to diversify the country's oil-dependent economy, his campaign has been met with some scepticism. His main challenger, Alain Claude Billy by NZE, a former Prime Minister under Bongo, has questioned Nguema's credentials, insisting military men should return to their barracks. As Gabonese voters head to the polls, the outcome is expected to be a one-sided affair. Staying in Africa, and at least 57 civilians have been killed in Sudan's North Darfur region after a violent assault by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. Local activists say the RSF launched a coordinated attack on the city of Al-Sharaa and the Zamzam displacement camp nearby. Sources indicate the assaults involved heavy artillery, sniper fire, drones. Al-Sharaa remains the last of her state's capital under army control. By 5 p.m. local time, the civilian death toll had climbed to 32, according to local reports, including 4 women and 10 children under the age of 5, with 17 others injured. Earlier, RSF fighters also stormed the famine-stricken Zamzam camp, killing 25 more civilians, many of them children and elderly. The violence comes amid a deepening humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Reports indicate that over 1,000 Sudanese refugees have already fled or attempted to flee to Europe in early 2025. Let's listen in to what Olga Sarado, a UN High Commissioner for Refugees spokesperson, has said.
Over 70,000 Sudanese refugees have arrived in Uganda, and others continue to attempt dangerous crossings to reach Europe. While the number of Sudanese arriving in Europe remains low, arrivals increased by 38% year-on-year in the first 2 months of 2025. We fear many more will have little choice. Nearly 13 million people have fled their homes to date, with almost 4 million crossing into neighboring countries. Displacement continued to grow in the second year of the conflict, with over 1 million people fleeing Sudan. New arrivals report witnessing mass killings, as well as experiencing systematic sexual violence and other human rights violations.
Witnesses have reported that RSF combat vehicles entered the camp amid intense gunfire. The Resistance Committee, which is a volunteer group assisting civilians, called the attack one of the deadliest in recent months.